Hello, everyone. This is Rick, and welcome to Astral Club. This is an interview with Jesus of Nazareth. Before we get into it, I'd like to mention Patreon. If you'd like to support the channel, you can certainly do so on Patreon. When you join, you get advanced podcasts, a chat function so you can talk with everyone else, and a direct mail for questions to me. If that sounds like something that interests you, just go down to the description and you'll find a link to Patreon. Next up, a private astral projection lesson. If you'd like a lesson to learn how to astral project, be glad to work with you. All you have to do is just go down to the description section and you find an email there. Just ask me for more information. Okay, this is a big one. This has been requested numerous times, and I've just been, I don't know, I just haven't gotten around to it. Plus, there was a part of me that was a little nervous about trying to do this particular interview. As you know, if you've been on this channel for any length of time, I was raised as a Christian. So obviously, Jesus of Nazareth figured quite large in my childhood. So, this is my interview with him. The room in the highest level of the astral was simple. Clay walls, an open window letting in the desert wind, and the scent of myrrh faint in the air. He sat on a worn mat, cross-legged, eyes closed, but not asleep. There was no crown, no halo, no thunder in the skies. "Yeshua," I said softly. His eyes opened. They were not the blue of the Renaissance paintings, but a calm, deep pool of chestnut. His hair was black and curly, and he had a short, well-groomed beard. His skin was a well-tanned bronze color. He wore a simple white robe and leather sandals. "Welcome, Richard. You're curious about the missing years," he said before I could ask. "Yes," I admitted. "Let's start there. The years between your visit to the temple in Jerusalem and the Jordan River, between boy and baptizer, where did you go?" For those familiar with the Bible, you'll know that there's a huge gap in the story of Jesus. We see him as a child, precocious child, certainly, preaching in the temple in Jerusalem to adults. The next time we see him after this experience, he's already an adult and he's begun to go on his 3-year ministry. But we have nothing in between. So I've always been curious as to what happened during that period of time. Some folks think he just made a lot of chairs and tables with his father. But this is the answer that I got. A slight smile curved his lips. "Tibet and Egypt." He gestured for me to sit, and I obeyed. His voice was soft, but each word held the weight of stone tablets and mountain-top winds. "In Egypt, I studied with the priests of Heliopolis, not just hieroglyphs and astronomy, but the duat, the unseen world. They taught me how the soul moves between veils, that death is not an end, but a crossing." He paused for a moment before he continued. "In Tibet, the monks taught me silence, how to listen to the breath between words, the truth behind illusion. They called it Rigpa, the awareness beyond the self. I sat in caves above the clouds, where no voice but the wind speaks. I learned how suffering arises from the mind, and how compassion is the only true wealth." "You sound more like a mystic than a messiah," I said. He laughed, a light human laugh. "What is a messiah but a mirror?" But your people expected a king, I said, and I came as a beggar. Why? I ask. Because liberation does not come from swords or crowns. It comes when a man sees his enemy and still loves, when he sees a leper and reaches out, when he forgives not 7 times, but 70 times 7. That is the revolution no empire can stop. I leaned in. Did you ever claim to be God? He looked at me, not with offense, but with an eerie clarity. I said, the kingdom of God is within you. That is not a claim, it is a call. I walked as a man to show men they could walk as light. But what about the cross? His eyes darkened for a moment, but only just. Rome feared an uprising. The temple feared loss of control. Between them, they crucified a lesson. But pain, he said, is not failure. Sometimes it is the only teacher people trust. That one got me. There was a silence between us before I finally asked, why did God make man? He glanced upward, watching a bird leap from a branch. Love, he said simply, not the kind that desires or consumes, but the kind that gives, creates, and frees. God did not need man, but he desired to share joy, to create beings who could freely choose to love. But why give man the choice to reject that love? I pressed. He stopped and looked at me, eyes deep with something older than sorrow, yet warmer than the sun. Because love without choice is not love. A puppet can perform kindness, but it cannot feel compassion. A prisoner can obey, but he cannot trust. Freedom is the soil in which love grows. I nodded. So why does suffering exist if God is love? He sat in silence for a moment, then picked up a stone and rolled it in his palm. Because love respects freedom. Man was given the ability to create, but also to destroy, to build peace or war. God does not micromanage the soul. He plants the seed of goodness, but man must choose to water it. Suffering exists, but not because God is absent, but because man often is. And what of evil? I ask, perhaps too sharply. What of hatred and cruelty? Where is God then? He looked at me, face calm, but serious. When a man kills his brother, it is not the absence of God. It is the absence of man knowing God. Yet even then I am there, in the mourning mother, in the man who forgives, in the hand that reaches out after the darkness. So we are the ones meant to carry the presence of God? Jesus smiled. Yes, man was made in God's image, not just in form, but in purpose, to reflect light, to be vessels of mercy. That is why I came, not to dominate, but to demonstrate, to be what man was meant to be. And what was man meant to be? I asked. Not a god, he said, but a child of God. Not ruler over others, but a servant of all. A mirror, not of perfection, but of love that keeps returning, even when it's broken. I looked at him, dust on his robe, wind in his hair, and I saw him the full weight of what he was saying. I saw in him, rather, the full weight of what he was saying. The divinity in his humility, the cosmic truth cloaked in the simplicity of his steps. I sensed my time to return to my body was approaching, so I asked one final question. What does God want from man? Jesus turned to face me. Not sacrifices, not monuments, only this, that you know you are loved, that you love in return, and that in all things you remember you are not alone. I was silent for a moment, unsure what to say. Then, hesitantly, do you regret coming to earth? His eyes twinkled, not with sarcasm, but with something ancient and tender. No, but I do wish more had listened. Listened to what? He reached out and touched his chest. To the stillness inside, the place where love whispers louder than law, and peace walks without permission. The wind stirred again. He closed his eyes. Will you return? I asked. He smiled. I never left. That was my interview with Jesus of Nazareth, called by his people Yeshua, bar Joseph, or in Greek, Jesus, the son of Joseph. Well, that was my interview with Jesus. I hope you found it as deep and enlightening as I did. If you liked it, please hit the like button, share it with those of like minds, subscribe if you haven't already, and please, I'm sure you have questions and comments. I certainly could have asked him a lot more, but unfortunately, my time was rather limited in the astral. So please, this is Rick, and I hope you benefited from this, and I will see you on the astral plane.